Welcome back to Bodanza Disc Golf and to another recap of a Pro Tour event that I was able to play this year, my second to last Pro Tour of the year. The Northwest Disc Golf Championship is an Elite Plus Pro Tour event, meaning that there are 4 rounds and a cut after 3. So if you're in the top 40% through 3 rounds, you can get into the final day. For a little bit of context, the Northwest Disc Golf Championship is a combination of 2 previous events that I was able to play last year and have on my channel as well. I do hope that in the future they go back to having Beaver State Fling as well as the Portland Open. I love being in the Pacific Northwest, and if we can extend how many tournament rounds I can play on these courses to 7 or 6, that'd be amazing. Welcome back to Bodanza Disc Golf. It is first round here at the Northwest Disc Golf Championship, presented by Latitude 64. We're at Mount McGovern for the first 2 rounds. And it's going to decide a lot, because I like Portland a lot. I wish I was playing, or Glendoveer, I wish I was playing that one a little more. Have to put together a couple good rounds here. Luckily it's rainy, we're prepared, and I'm a little nervous because it's 20 minutes to my tee time and I got a long walk to get to hole 1 and check in, because you got to be there 5 minutes before. Kind of lost track of time at the Airbnb with my baby and my wife and stuff going on. It was a good chill morning, but now I'm here a little late. Hopefully I can get a couple putts in, maybe throw a couple into a net. I don't feel super prepared, but I don't not feel prepared. Got a new caddy for this week. Shout out Nathan, I believe, and should be good.
Fourth PDGA start at the Bodanza.
Coming into this event, my main goal was to cash, but ultimately I'm just trying to enjoy my time on tour and get valuable experience, because this is a pretty tricky year for me. There's a lot going on in my life, so I'm trying to just enjoy myself and not put too much pressure on my play. But I still think I have the skills to be able to compete and at least get into that top 40%. And coming off of a solid 3rd round at the Cascade Challenge, which was 2 weeks ago and also a Pro Tour event, and cashing at the first Go Throw Tour event that I played last week, I was pretty excited for round 1. It starts out with a 455-foot par 3, which is a pretty big carry, and I'm a little nervous, and I just am thinking, let me make sure that I juice this thing, and so I throw it into the ground. Hole 2, also a little bit nervous. I throw a roller, and I don't throw it into the ground enough. I ended up throwing a pretty solid second shot, kind of around the corner. I was a little afraid because I needed to make sure that I committed to it. Throw about a 440-foot third through this small tunnel gap, which is pretty sweet, and had a putt for a birdie on this pretty sweet par 5. One of my favorite holes that I've ever played. Not able to connect on that, but the putting has felt really good since that final round of Cascade Challenge, all of the Go Throw event at Kayak Point, as well as leading into today. If you watch my Isaac practice rounds, which you definitely should after this, it's at the Glendoveer course, I was telling him that I just couldn't get my putt to feel bad, which is a great problem to have. So going into hole 3, I'm still a little bit amped, still a little bit nervous, and I throw my shot into the ground. End up pitching up and taking a par, and then hole 4, I throw my shot into the ground. So I'm noticing a bit of a theme, and on the way up the fairway on hole 4, I'm talking to my caddy Nathan, and I'm saying, hey, I think I just noticed I'm trying to think about like a general angle and then throw hard. So I'm thinking throw hard on Anheuser, not let the disc come out of my hand at this specific angle, at this specific speed, and like visualizing that. Not trying to get a miles per hour or like an angled number, but more just like visualizing what that looks like. Instead, I'm just like hard Anheuser, and then I tense up and throw into the ground. So I end up throwing a pretty solid forehand from that pretty bad shot, and it gets me to just outside the circle. Pretty nervous because it's an elevated basket and I don't make the putt, but I make the comebacker and my putt's still feeling good. Hole 5, I start visualizing better, and I throw a more committed shot, but I just pull it a little bit too far right. I'm still not quite comfortable with a lot of my distance drivers, but this blue and white one you'll see me throw all over the place this tournament. It's the main one that I trust at least mostly how it flies. I'm like 85% with that driver and about 40% with all my other ones. So I'm still committed to it, and I'm trying to play a little extra aggressive in this round just to see like, hey, am I good enough to add a little bit extra aggression rather than just laying up. Like sometimes I lay up and I'm like, what could have been if I would have really gone for it? And so I'm trying this round. I get really close to throwing a really good shot, but it kicks OB. I'm able to pitch up with a solid 3rd, with a solid 4th since I had the OB stroke, and take a bogey. Hole 6, long hole, took a par, and hole 7 is a really tricky downhill shot that I just want to get under this ceiling. And I've been pretty good at throwing these downhill shots, as you've noticed. I've been good at throwing into the ground, and throwing into the ground is pretty similar to throwing down a hill. So I actually throw a pretty solid shot, and I wind myself up in circle 2.
Great shot.
Coming off a great birdie there, I'm excited to go into hole 8, which is Philo's albatross hole. It used to be a par 5, and Philo got a 2 on it. He threw in from the middle of the fairway. Pretty similar spot to where I am, probably a little bit further up. I threw a little righter of where I wanted to be, and I got the weirdest kick ever out of this tree.
Out of it. Oh, right. Whoa.
Just went straight in through the branches, didn't hit any of them, hit the trunk, and kicked straight left. I've never even been this far left, even when I missed my shots in practice or in the tournament last year. And I try to throw a forehand roller, but just don't pick a flippy enough disc or put it on enough angle. And so I pitch up and give my birdie right back, and I'm back to 1 over par. The putt still felt great, and on hole 9, I threw a really good shot with my finish line era. Shout out finish line discs. And put it to 20 feet, but I'm kind of right up against this ledge, and I'm thinking, should I straddle? Should I step it? No stress. Let me just make sure that I'm comfortable and make the putt. And I absolutely airballed it, and I have a more difficult comebacker. So I was a little bit rattled even though I made that putt and ended up throwing not a great shot on hole 10. It wasn't terrible. I just pulled it a little bit too much and have to pitch up, which I do a very bad job of, and it leaves me with this putt. And so 2 circle 1 misses in a row, and I'm not feeling good. At this point, I'm 2 over par. Haven't gotten a lot of birdies, but hole 11 is super attackable. And I'm trying to think about 3 down each day or 4 down being the number that I'm trying to hit in order to get close to that cash line and stay close. But I know that like +2 is my maximum cutoff of like where I think I can work my way back into it through 2 really good rounds. I would love to be closer to 1 under, 2 under par. Even is fine, but just somewhere within that range is where I'm trying to stay. So I'm kind of at my limit, and I can't take any more bogeys. Throw an okay first shot, it gets a little bit lucky, and I throw a pretty solid second, making a good putt. And so I'm back to 1 over par, moving into a par hole. I took a par. You're not birdieing that one unless you got the most ridiculous arm. Cole skipped off the top, which is crazy. And then 13 is a super easy short chipper that I parred. It was a pretty solid putt. I just threw a really undercommitted forehand to get to that spot, and knew that the putt was a little too high nose up the whole way. So parred that one, and I'm looking at my chops because these 2 holes in the woods are birdie holes. Like I wanted to get these and get back to 1 down through the woods. And so I throw a really solid shot out of my hand. I just knew it was a touch high with my Halo Seedland Emperors, and I learned something about these discs that I'll share with you later. Got a little too high, and then I'm still in my aggressive mode, and so I feel like I can give a good solid run at this jump putt, pull it a little too right, miss my 40-footer, make the comebacker, and I have a bogey. So instead of being 1 down through the woods, I'm back to 2 up. And now we're into 2 holes that are not my favorite holes. They're fine, I guess. They replace a par 4 that was played from the first hole to the second hole, and I took a par on both of these holes. They're not the best in my opinion, but people birdie them, so it could just be that I'm not great at playing them. So we move into hole 17, and I'm 2 over, and these 2 finishing holes are pretty solid on this course. I really like them. I'm glad that they changed 18 from last year to be last year's 17. It's a really good finisher. And I end up starting out with a smash on hole 17. I got basically to the perfect landing zone. Not a ton of people are getting much past this. And I threw a pretty solid upshot with my MB. I meant to just throw it a little more driven, but instead I leaked it a little high, and it got me right to the edge of circle. But I'm trying to get my confidence back, and I ended up making a really solid putt to get the birdie. 18, par 5, throw a perfect drive. Try to just throw across and turn something, so I'm throwing my era just so I make sure I get across and then it turns. That way I'm not really like trying to force something over or across the road and stay in OB a lot of the way. And I hit a tree and was super scared that I was just going to knock down OB, but it lands barely safe, and I have 390 feet in ranged to the basket. And I'm like, hey, I'm 1 over at this point. I want to stay aggressive. I know I can make this shot happen. If I take that era and throw it on a lot of hyzer, it's not really going to turn over, but I need to make sure I commit to the shot because I've thrown a lot of undercommitted shots today.
Yeah. Oh, buddy.
So I do commit to the shot. It's a little low, as kind of I've been used to throwing recently. I got to figure out how to throw a little higher. But it ends up being absolutely perfect. It's like one of the best shots I've ever thrown in a tournament, and I absolutely pinned it for a drop-in birdie to get to even on the day, which is 999 rated, and put me in 58th place. The cash line is 42, and I was 3 strokes out of it on the first day. But I thought I could make a push in a second, but these were my initial thoughts.
All right, just finished up. Gonna see where we're at. Finishing it even, birdieing those last 2. That last shot was crazy. I was like, if I don't commit to this, like, I'm screwed. And there've been a lot of uncommitted shots. Today I tried to play like a little extra aggressive on some of the shots, as you probably saw, to be like, okay, will this help or hurt me? And as Gannon says, if you're not good enough, don't play aggressive. So it hurt me on a couple extra throws, but getting back to even par gets me like around the area where I feel like I'm not at the cash line, but I'll be able to work my way up to the cut line if I eliminate some of those mistakes. Currently, yeah, kind of hard to say where I will end up being. Right now it's like 45th, but there's so many people out on the course. So getting back to even was actually better than I anticipated. Right now it's showing 1,000 even. My guess is it'll be around 990, 992. Yeah, just too many circle 1 misses and mistakes. Made 1 from circle 2. Oh, they only had me at 1 circle 1 miss, so shout out to the scorekeeper for messing that up and giving me only 1 when I had 2. But yeah, we'll get it squared away for tomorrow. I started really feeling it towards the end there and just having fun again, and that related into good golf. So we'll see what tomorrow does. Big shout out, you gotta show yourself to Nathan for being on the camera all day. Hopefully the videos were good. If not, I'll leave all of his home information and credit card numbers in the description.
So round 2, we're coming back to the same course, and I'm pretty excited. I rushed to my tee time the first day. I got myself a little more time on the second, and walking up to hole 1, I'm playing with Sully, I'm playing with Parker, I'm playing with Hunter, who I got to know. I was pretty pumped for hole number 1. The wind I thought was a little headwind, and then I looked at the flags to my left, and they were showing a little left to right, so I'm like, let me just throw this Emperor, and I ended up just completely overturning it. It was headwind as we walked further down the fairway. Pitch up, take a par, not the end of the world. In hole 2, I throw the same exact roller. I somehow split the same trees. I am not throwing that disc crazy well. It's the function. I just put it in my bag for this tournament. I like it. I just need to get better at rollers. I'm really not good at them. Throwing like something that stays on Anheuser and hits the ground is not something I'm comfortable with. But I get myself in a fine position, similar to yesterday, but a little trickier angle. And I just tell myself, you got to commit. You got to pull it over just like you did yesterday, throw a really solid shot. And I just didn't. And this is going to be one of 3 shots that will define the round today. And so I'll point them out as we go through them. But this one, underturned it a little bit. Don't end up crossing super far. Shank my second shot. Well, no, it's my 4th shot now. Shank my 5th shot into the woods. Have a really solid 6th, and finally I go up to Sully. I'm like, I gotta throw one good shot on this hole, I guess. And I end up making my putt for the double bogey. So I'm 2 over, and I was trying to shoot 4, 5, or 6 during this round. I know that I have that in the tank. I know like I have the ability. I can birdie all these holes. I just need to put together a solid round. And starting 2 over through 2 is not the way to do it. And especially compound that with the fact where I throw a pretty solid shot. And then I run a putt pretty well, and I leave myself 18, 20 feet, pretty easy. Just chuck it in the middle, and I leak it left. A little undercommitted again. That is the second shot that kind of defines this round. So gave up another stroke there. Now I'm 3 over through 3. Maybe I'm waking up a little bit, but I end up playing a pretty solid hole 4 and 5 and birdie both of them back to back. Perfect drives on both of them. Really good forehand on hole 3. Really good backhand on hole 4. And drop in putts pretty much on both of those holes. Hole 6, don't throw a great shot. Get a little lucky that I'm not OB, so that's 1 stroke given back to me by the course, I guess. Don't really run the putt well. Take a par. 7, par. 8, par. 9, I throw my error again. And instead of keeping on too much hyzer, I actually flip it a little too much. I'm still trying to learn this disc, and now that I'm going back to Colorado after this tournament, I'm going to have to kind of wait a little more until I go to Des Moines to really throw it again. I'll probably put this bag from this tournament to the side and just like put a bunch of new stuff in the bag so that I have an idea of how these fly down here at sea level. At least a much better starting point than I would have otherwise. And it ends up staying a little too turned. So I thought it was actually perfect out of my hand and just stayed a little too right, about 45 feet, and I'm feeling a little confident with the putter. So that's a sweet birdie, and it now gets me back to even through 9. So actually better than yesterday because I was 1 over through 9 after missing that circle 1 putt. And then I went back to 2 over on hole 10. So I'm trying to not recreate that. I end up throwing a solid shot on hole 10, but not great. And I don't even really have a look, unfortunately. I tried to find a putt, but I had to just chop a forehand at the basket. And luckily I'm outside of 11 feet, so I get a C1X putt instead of a bullseye. Gotta pad your stats. But hole 11 is a birdie hole. I'm licking my chops, stepping up to that one. You just gotta get through that initial gap and then It's a chip forehand, probably about 350 or so, maybe a little bit less, into the green, and I end up kind of throwing a bad shot. I was really disappointed in myself. I think I lined up a little wrong on the tee pad. I lined up right to left instead of kind of down that gap that I really wanted to hit. And so I chip up, take a par on the next hole. Again, it's a par hole. And then I walk up to my nemesis hole, 230 feet through the woods. Super simple gap with a forehand or a backhand. And I hit the gap this time. Let's go. I know that this is a hole that everyone's dreading and they're walking up to it. It is kind of hard to get the muskets sometimes. It shouldn't be, but I end up getting it this time. In hole 14, I threw the perfect shot with my Maria Oliva Dune. I got her to sign it after yesterday's round because it doesn't have her stamp on it, but I got her to sign it, so it's officially a Maria Oliva Dune. And I threw the perfect shot on this beautiful 323-foot hole. And I knew I'd have to get a little lucky late because there's just a couple aisles you have to hit, and I managed to hit one. I was so pissed. That was such a good shot. But that's okay. I end up trying to make the putt. Again, I'm trying to give safe bids. Don't make it. Took a par. 15 around the corner. I thought I actually threw the perfect shot, but that hole is so far to the right that I wasn't even close to right enough, and I took a par. And 17, I also thought I threw a perfect shot with my Sphinx. It was better than the first day. I really liked it out of my hand. The spotter seemed to like it, and then it rolled into Narnia, and I didn't even have a putt at all. And so I'm trying to find a way to pitch out, and I just fling it onto that second terrace, and I must have leaked it a little high, hits the wood, rolls away to like 50 feet. I couldn't believe it, honestly. I was pretty frustrated at that point because I thought I threw a really good drive. I thought I threw a pretty good upshot, and now I have a 50-foot putt to save the par.
Good putts.
So that felt pretty good. And 16 and 17, I was excited because I had played those pretty well yesterday. Threw another really good drive, and it put me in a pretty close spot, honestly. There's a little more headwind, which is why I changed to that Halo Seablend Emperor, just because I knew if I threw it the same way I threw the first one on the first day, it would get a similar result. I ended up going with my Buzz and just skied it. Luckily, I still had some sort of look, which was pretty fortunate. And I thought I made the putt out of my hand. I just pulled it a little bit too right and moved out of hole 18 where I threw a great drive. I threw a much better second shot than I did the first day, and all I had was 220 feet in with my chicane. I knew that I could just try to go over these branches or under them or around them. All were possible, and I end up throwing what I thought was going to be under the branches, which was my goal, and I just hit them, and it trickles me OB. So I was one under at this point, and now I'm OB putting for 5 from 70 feet. If I get on the island, I probably shoot 2 down. And unfortunately, from 70 feet, I gave it a really good bid, just did not drop, and was a little low the whole way, and I ended up shooting even for the second day. This day, it's 991 rated, so the field is playing the course a little bit better. I was putting really well. My stats for this day are super messed up. Unfortunately, we had a problem with the stat keeping stuff, so not that big of a deal. I only missed 1 circle 1 putt on the day, and I made 2 circle 2s. First day, I missed 2 circle 1s, and I made 1 circle 2. So I'm pretty even on putting for the weekend so far. But that was my third important shot from that round, because on hole 2, if I don't throw that shot OB, I likely don't take those 2 shots. I take a par at worst if I keep it inbounds, and so that's 2 strokes. The next hole, if I just make a 20-foot putt or just lay up from 50 feet, which I don't think I should have. I think I should have just made the comeback putt. That's 3 strokes. And then this one, if I just miss that branch, I'm absolutely parked, dropping it a birdie, 2 more strokes. So 5 strokes. So the difference between an even round and a 5-under round is just 3 shots, which is pretty crazy to think about when you're on the tour. And the difference between like even and where I was is that even par is now 64th place. So I moved down 6 spots, and 5 down is 1 stroke off the cash line in 49th place. And so that's kind of what's crazy about that. I had a lot of other mistakes throughout the round, and I definitely could have cleaned a lot of things up. Not getting a ton of birdies. I'm not scoring crazy well, but just 3 shots equate to 1 stroke off the cash line moving into the final day versus 6.
Cold, dreary day out. Got some little bit of rain, so I brought the cart out today because we're at the Glendevere course, the golf course. I really like this course. I like it a lot more than Milo, so I'm excited to play today. But that finish yesterday with that bogey made it pretty tricky. I think 10 down is going to be around the cut line, somewhere between 9 or 10, something in there. So I'm going to have to shoot 10 down because I'm even right now. A day like today, I'm kind of excited about because I can shoot the best round that I've ever shot, like in a tournament, and I can make the cut. It's definitely out there. It's possible. 10 down, I can definitely do that. It's going to be really hard. So I'm going to go out there and try to have fun. I don't have a lot of hope, but I'm excited to play. 20 minutes to tee time. We're supposed to get no rain, but it's kind of spitting
pretty cool. They have this little Top Golf simulator up there. Like I said, like, of course, I want to, like, cash. I want to play well. But I know it's basically I have to play as perfect as I can, and so I'll try. And if it doesn't turn out to be that way, I'm going to make sure that I still play well. Because the secondary goal is to shoot my second 1,000 rated tournament on the tour. First one was Cascade Challenge. I had a good enough round, the final round, to bump that event average to either 1,002 or 1,004. And right now I'm at 999 and 993. So if I shoot 1010 or above, I should shoot over 1,000 rated.
All the way to I'm from Denver, Colorado, Anthony Bodanza.
I love Glenview East. I actually much prefer this course to Milo. Probably just because I like playing it with a golf cart in practice. I actually like both of the courses now that I've played them more. I do like being on a golf course property. I just think it's really pretty, especially in the PNW. You just have such good visibility everywhere, big rolling hills. And so round 3, I knew I would need to shoot a heater. And so I wasn't going into it with crazy expectations. I wasn't like, of course I'm gonna do this. I was hoping that I could do it. I knew that I could birdie enough holes to do it, and I could play clean enough golf on all the others. Like, I can birdie every hole out there. It just would take one of my best rounds that I've ever put together, because 10 down would likely have been around 1070 rated, which I've shot in the 1050s before. So 1070 is definitely better, but I knew like it was potentially possible if I played my best. Hole 1, I got iced by a little baby. Which is pretty cool. Big shout out to everyone who I met throughout this whole time. I got massive cheers on Saturday. So I just really appreciate everybody who I'm able to meet, who is rooting for me out there. It means a lot, and I'm always trying to play so that, of course, I want to do well for myself, but of course I want to do well so that if you're a fan of me, you feel like it's a good thing to be a fan of me, of course. I really appreciate everyone who was out there. I ended up throwing a really good drive after getting iced by the baby. Threw it exactly where I wanted to, and I had a pretty simple upshot from about 275 in with my NB. I meant to throw it a little flatter, but I put a little hyzer on it, which was fine until I saw the spotter kind of eyeing down the hill. I thought it was going to be close to parked. Ended up being about 30 feet in a tailwind, and looking way up at that basket, I knew, like, just got to put it high in the chains, and my body just couldn't let me. I just can't get myself to throw way high on those baskets, and so ended up making a par on hole 1, which is not bad, but any putt inside the circle, like, I can't miss any more of those. Hole 2, we have a right to left wind, and I'm not super comfortable with a lot of my discs on the forehand. Here's where I'll explain to you what I was talking about with my Halo Seedblend Emperors, and I actually gave them away after this round. I gave them to Justin Rozek, who's on my card, who loved them. I think that they're solid. For me, who has very mechanically disadvantageous hands, they are pretty big in the shoulder. A lot of discs, even if they like are a little bigger, if the plastic is able to like compress a little more, I can get a good grip into them. So I was even like feeling my buddy Ryan, who's on the card, I was feeling his nukes, and then I felt like my Emperors, and the rim is smaller, but because it's a thicker disc, just in how high the shoulder is, and the plastic's really stiff, I can't really get my hand in it well, and so they were just, I didn't really work with anything that was that overstable, that wasn't that feeling, and so I just didn't want to take them out and throw them very much, which I realized somehow on the third day, and that's not a good thing. You need to be able to have trust in overstable discs, and unfortunately I didn't, and so I take that blue and white driver that I've just been loving, and I still do love it, but it's a little straight, and I knew I needed to just throw it on a touch of forehand, and it'd be on a touch of hyzer, and it'd be really good, but instead I just throw it flat to a touch of flex, and I knew it was OB the second it left my hand. There was no chance. It was not going to be overstable in that right to left enough to get back in bounds because of how right it needed to move. So I ended up pitching up, taking a bogey, and now I'm like, okay, 11 under through the last 16 holes. It's possible. In hole 3, I step up with that same blue and white Emperor and make a birdie. So now it's 10 under through the last 15 holes. And thinking about it like that, I was thinking, okay, get every 2 of the last 3. Get every 2 of 3, and I have a chance. Of course, as I'm on the box, I'm not thinking about this. I'm just thinking about it logistically before I actually get there. And I did a really good job of like not letting the score get in my head during this round for a lot of it. But hole 4 is 450-foot par 3. Not a lot of birdies, not super birdieable hole, especially we have pretty difficult wind. I throw a solid shot, and I meant to run this putt, but ends up just being a layup. Par there is fine. In hole 5, I threw a pretty solid shot with that same Emperor, but I knew it was a little right of my ideal. I wanted to throw exactly how I did, just have it finish a little lefter, so something a little more overstable, or aiming a little lefter, or in a little more hyzer could have been perfect. And I was 375 out. I knew it was a great distance for my Sphinx. There's a left-to-right wind. I needed something to stay on turn. I knew I just needed to put it really high in the window and let it drift. And out of my hand, I didn't hate it. but then I saw how fast it flipped in that wind, and I thought it would do that, which is why I knew I needed to throw it 5 to 10 feet higher. And it was on the perfect line track into the basket, but it landed right in the lake, and that disc is gone. So if anyone finds that Sphinx, Gannon, I actually had Gannon sign it. It was funny. Shout out if this is you. Someone came up when I was filming with Gannon for the Go Throw event coverage, and they wanted me to sign a Sphinx, and so we had got Gannon sign that as well, and so I had him sign my Sphinx too. But that one is in that pond. If someone gets it out and someone finds it, tag me on Instagram, but it's yours if you find it somewhere at the Portland stuff. Pretty unfortunate that I threw that one in the water, and I end up giving a solid bid for par from the other side and take a bogey. And so now it's still technically possible, but not likely. But I'm still kind of in it. Like, I want to shoot well, and hole 6, 415 down the hill, I threw my white and pink Emperor, and this is actually exactly the point where I tell Justin, I'm like, dude, if you want these after the round, you can have them. Like, I'm just not getting along with them super well. They're good discs. They're just, I have such small hands. Everyone, all the pros that I've given them to have loved how they felt. They're like, this is the best disc ever. And so in my head, I'm like, yes, I have to like this. And then I just don't, but I forced myself to, and then I didn't trade it for the disc that probably would have been better for me. So I ended up throwing a solid shot, but it's outside the circle. I give a really good bid, and I knew it was a little right the whole way, but it's one that could stick in. But on these type of baskets, the latitude baskets, the veteran style, they're just not going to stick in that upper right-hand area. So took a par there, 7, threw it into the hill, upshot, par, and hole 8. At this point, we have 11 holes to play. I need to shoot 11 under par. There are a couple potential eagles out here. Like hole 18 is definitely potentially eagleable. Hole 11 is eagleable if I threw 150 feet further magically on that hole for this round. Possible. Never say never. And I ended up throwing a solid shot with my Roman. I just hit the second tree and thought I threw a decent upshot, but it was way too low. Gave it a decent putt bid, and then I'm not going to make myself watch this again, but I missed the putt from like 13 feet. So I double bogeyed. And then I went on to par, hole 9. And then I went on to bogey, hole 10, through a really bad drive. Solid upshot, just hit a tree that slowed it down enough to get OB on a green. Missed my putt, take a bogey. So now I'm 4 over par through 10 holes. Feeling disappointed, but then my goal is to get back to even for the tournament. I know it's possible. I know I have that in me, and I don't think I've ever finished at even or better at a Pro Tour event. Of course, I want to shoot a 1,000 rated tournament, so if I can somehow get 5 or 6 birdies on the last 8, which I know is possible, I know I can do it, but it doesn't start out very well, because on hole 11, I throw a shot that I hit a tree, and then I boom my second shot. I finally committed to a shot. That's like the first shot I've committed to. I'm trying to see since hole 5. Since hole 5, since I threw my Sphinx in the water, and that was uncommitted pretty much, and then I haven't thrown a committed shot since. Up until that shot, the second shot on hole 11. That's yikes. And I leave myself 550, 560 in, but super downhill, so I know if I hit the center gap with enough height in the window, it's perfect. And then I turf it again. I'm so good at turfing shots, I need to like write a course on it. But instead, I should probably just learn how to throw more committed. I'm going to be working on my form when I get home, and I'm really excited for that. And I'm excited to share that journey with you guys. Throwing higher better, because I feel like I'm so close on so many of these courses and so many of these shots. And I think my game can all come together. Like, I still am loving touring, and I'm excited for my future touring, because I do think like I'm not super far off, but I'm just not scoring. But like stuff is coming together, and we'll be able to get there. Throw a solid upshot with my MD5 that almost skips in, and then hole 12, I just throw the perfect drive. This is a pretty tricky low ceiling hole. I just basically try to recreate the shot that I threw with Isaac in that practice round, which you should definitely watch after this. And ended up getting myself about a 28 footer, which I cash, pretty clutch. 13, 455 up the hill. I actually ranged it to 470. It is way uphill. Throw a solid shot. Don't really give it a good bid from 65 feet. Not really giving good bids from super long this event. Maybe the first day I gave some solid ones, but otherwise not really giving super long bids really good chance. Something also to work on, because I find myself in like the 45 to 70 foot range a lot. And if I can drop 1 or 2 of those every round, that's a big addition for me when I'm out here. 14, 845 foot par 4. I throw a solid first shot. I just knew out of my hand it wasn't turned enough. I was hopeful that something crazy would happen. Just didn't, of course. Physics is pretty constant. And I end up throwing a solid upshot and having a high-low gap that if I hit this high gap, I have the potential to like make it. And I feel pretty confident about at least giving it a solid bid finally. And I think I did. The only problem is I threw it 2 inches too low, and it hits into stuff, and I end up making a par. I think if I got a little higher, I definitely had a chance of going in, but you never know. 15, at this point I am 3 over, and I need to get 3 of the last 4 in order to shoot even for the day. And I throw a solid drive. It was a little lucky. I wobbled it a little too much, so it stayed on turn a little too much, and then finally stabled out and was half on the line. From circle 2, I'm able to finally make a solid circle 2 putt. My only one of the day. I just had to check my stats.
There you go.
In 16, I step up, and there's this hyzer gap. A lot of people I saw throwing up the middle yesterday, which I think is a line. I just never really practiced it. And so I just told myself, hey, just commit to the shot. I'm a little afraid of the gap at this point, but I throw a pretty committed, solid shot. I toned down a little bit because I was a little scared of the gap, and so I wind up with a tree kind of in my putting stance, but I'm inside the circle, and I've been pretty solid from inside the circle. I've missed 2 this round already, one of them for 13 feet, which is pretty disappointing, and then hole 1. So one's a pretty dumb miss, and one's a pretty understandable miss, and I have to straddle at this one. And I just don't think I take my time to set myself and get comfortable in the stance. I was disappointed that I had to straddle, and I don't think I went through my straddle change of mentality, be like, okay, commit through the center of the pole, make sure I'm not just winging it to the right, because I airballed it. I airballed it, dude. I could have got to 1 over par with 2 to play. 2 opportunities to get myself to even, maybe even get under par, and I airballed it. But 17 is an 830-foot par 4, which I didn't actually get to play with Isaac in that practice round, so I haven't played it since last year. But it's a pretty straightforward hole. I threw what I thought was a good roller, but it just didn't quite get through the last gap. And then I really skied my second shot. But at this point, dude, I'm in run it mode. I need to get some birdies, and I throw a really good shot from 100 feet. Oh. So I'm finally putting good bids on it. I just am 2 inches too low. And going into hole 18, I'm thinking, hey, if I put a good drive out here, I've never tried to eagle this. It's 1,000 feet. I can probably throw 475, 480, give myself a 45, 50 footer. And I don't throw 475 off the tee. But I throw a solid drive out there, probably 440-ish, 450-ish. And I range 500 feet basically to the tree that's by the basket. So I decide, if I just turn this enough, I'll probably turn it into trees. It could kick OB, and that's unlucky, but I can get up and down for a par. 2 over par, not the end of the world. I'm not happy about it. I haven't checked scores. I know I'm not making the cut. It's probably 8 down, 9 down, 10 down, what I'm thinking about. And so I toss my double G Emperor out there. Ends up being a pretty sick shot. I really like that shot, really committed. I've noticed that I look slow when I'm throwing. I definitely am needing to add some speed, and I think I can, because I've just watched myself throw recently. I'm like, you just look slow. So I'm still throwing it far enough, but to add that extra 50 or 60 or 100 feet of distance would be game-changing on a lot of these courses. So that's something I'm going to work on throughout the rest of this year while I'm staying home in Denver for the most part, except for maybe 2 more trips. But I leave myself about a 65, 70 footer, so I send it. Out of my hand, I thought that there was a chance that it would hit the branch, but it's on the line to go in. And I rewatched this from the angle of the Pro Tour when I just looked at the hole 18 cam. I rewatched this on my phone, and I think that this thing was hitting a lot of chains, if not going in the center of the basket, if the tree wasn't there. How could I have known that there was going to be a tree there? And it sat right in the bullseye, ended up tapping in. Shooting 1 over, which is, right now, 1,000 rated exactly. So I shoot 997 for the event. I think I need 2 more strokes in order to get to over 1,000 for the event. But I think I average 999.9 between Cascade and this, because I think I was 1,002 or 1,003 at Cascade, and I'm 997 here. And so 3 rounds each, it's 999 right now. So didn't shoot anything crazy good this week, but pretty consistently around that 990 to 1,000 rating, and just a lot of mistakes and little things, not massive things, not blow up and be really bad, just losing focus, not really controlling everything that I could. Round 2, just having those 3 shots, which cost me 5 strokes. This one, hole 8, if I throw a solid drive, that's 2 strokes right there, because just throw a solid second. There's so much that can happen. I'm pretty happy with how I played, but I'm excited to continue pursuing this and doing it in this new way. I think these 3 weeks have been really good. My wife's been on the road. Baby Bogey's been awesome. It's been difficult, but I think we're figuring out a good kind of rhythm for this season, and then excited for next year when, thanks to your guys' support, subscribe. My wife should be able to leave her job if everything continues similarly, and then be able to tour more. But I think that all starts this year, and I think this new mentality of just trying to have fun and enjoy myself rather than taking it way too seriously has led me to make way less crazy, egregious mistakes. Still a couple, but definitely more consistent play. I just need to figure out scoring a little better and maybe add a little distance and drop a couple 70 footers. Other than that, disc golf's easy, baby.
Also, this means Isaac owes me a drink, because if you watched our practice round that we filmed for the East Course, we couldn't play the final 2 holes. He gave me 2 strokes, and I was behind him by 1, and we said that for the 3rd round, hole 17 and 18 would count for that challenge. We ended up both going par, birdie on those final 2 holes in that day, so Isaac, I'm watching you.
Oh, also, if you're watching this long, you're like one of the only people who would care about this because this series has not been super popular. But my $1,000 monthly match series, that's supposed to be the last like video of every month. This touring and scheduling stuff is just so hard for me this year with having to worry about childcare and other things like that. So the monthly match series, we'll do another one at the end of June, just for the record. So it's not coming, but it's just not coming in the same time that I promised it. So I'm sorry about that. Peace.